Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Governance and Audit Committee meeting of the 14th of December. If I could take apologies for absence initially, please.
Apologies from Councillors Leslie Walton, Jeff Jones, Andrew Stevens and Rob Stewart.
Very much. Do we have any disclosures of interest? No. Thank you. If we can look at the minutes then for accuracy. Page 1, page 2.
I've got an amendment on page 2, please.
Yeah.
Paragraph 43, my personal interest, as I said, it should be minute 46, equipment.
Okay, we'll get that corrected, Julie, thank you. Page 3, page 4, page 5 and page 6. Can I have a show of hands for accuracy, please? Thank you, Paxton, thank you, Peter, and thank you, Cyril and Jennifer. There are a couple of actions on those minutes that will need to be added to the tracker because the tracker has not been updated for this meeting, but we can make sure that they're added, but just for the information and for the purpose of the minutes. If we can move on to then, which is one of the main items on our agenda, which is the annual complaints report 2021, and I welcome Sarah Lackenby to introduce us to this report. But before Sarah addresses the report, I've had some communication with Sarah, which I've shared with the Chair of Scrutiny, because I'm keen not to overlap any of the work of scrutiny or performance with the work of the Governance and Audit Committee. And Sarah's confirmed that the Scrutiny Committee has not looked at the complaints up to this time, but they're due to look at it in March 2020, and neither has the Social Services Scrutiny looked at the contents of the report. However, the Ombudsman report has been approved by Cabinet. So at this moment in time, whereas we'd normally be able to take assurance from the work of those other scrutiny committees in their role and their deep dives, we're not in that position at this moment in time, but the aim is for that to happen in future periods. So if I could welcome Paxton, do you want to come in?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just to say that certainly from a social services point of view, in terms of scrutiny, the department is under a lot of pressure. We've kept our agendas basically to a minimum at the moment, that's for sure, and obviously we'd have picked it up later in the year when things have settled down again, hopefully. So fully understand what you say, but as you so correctly say, we haven't actually looked at it this year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paxton. Okay, then if I can invite Sarah, would you like to take us through the report and pick up the key issues that you want the committee to be minded and noted of, please?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is a new report, as you're aware, to the Governance and Audit Committee, as it's a new requirement that came out of the Local Government Elections Wales Act 2021 rather. The aim of the report is to provide the committee with some assurance on the complaints handling process. But as we all know, it was a very challenging year last year because of the pandemic. Therefore, I would ask the committee, any comparison that you see in the report with previous years should be taken within that context. You can see in the report, despite all disruption, both the Council and the Ombudsman did make good progress on advancing changes and new initiatives. So we've reviewed and updated all the policies. The complaints team received some training directly from the Ombudsman. And we started developing a new IT system as well, to make the process easier both for the public and more efficient for staff. Say you'll see the annual from the Ombudsman is attached, and that highlights key projects both from the Ombudsman's office and ourselves that we're undertaken during the year, despite some quite challenging times with the pandemic. The Ombudsman also looking forward, he's going to start publishing more data and information online from across Wales, and that's happening later this year. I mentioned the council reviewed its policies. We did this so that they were all in line with the Ombudsman's requirements and the Act, but also good practice. All those policies have been reviewed by the Ombudsman's office. The policies also now include how Welsh language complaints should be handled, and this is in line with the Welsh language legislation also. Me and my team, we work very closely with the Ombudsman office. We submit quarterly returns. We also attend meetings to discuss progress and when the Ombudsman has workshops. In a recent call as well, the Ombudsman's office, Matt, who I deal with, he's offered to attend a future meeting of this committee if that will be held. The report also highlights the process and performance for stage 1 and stage 2 complaints for both corporate and social services. But again, I would reiterate the impact of the pandemic that you see in terms of, and I have listed that out, but the impact of the pandemic is not to be underestimated in the handling of complaints last year. At the moment, there is significant manual handling. Well, last year, there was significant manual handling of information. But as the report states, we are looking to automate as many processes as possible with the new IT system. This is being developed by Digital Services. We're hoping to have this in place by the end of March. That's our aim. The Ombudsman annual letter has also been provided, and we've also put in the report information around obviously our submissions on the quarterly returns, the Section 40 submissions, and the internal process that we have as well in terms of responding to any actions or lessons learned. So happy to take any questions to the committee. I'd ask the committee to note the report and also the very good work undertaken by all staff, but particularly the complaints team on what was a very challenging year for everyone.
Thank you, Sarah. Any hands, any questions or queries for Sarah, please? No. Councillor Rayner.
Thank you, and thank you very much to Sarah for bringing this report, because I think the question is possibly within her field of expertise. Education takes up a considerable amount of the council funding. It's very pleasing to see that in the table provided, education has done very well in terms of complaints. But of course, we're in this bizarre situation of a delegated budget to schools with delegated responsibilities. And as yet, I understand we don't have quite the technological links to record complaints addressed via the school systems, the staffing to actually monitor that, or the sort of collation of documents relating to complaints to individual schools that we could study as a corporate body. Have you any information on updating the systems? Because I know it's not just complaints, it's a whole issue of linking up delegated organisations who we primarily fund, but we don't have really good sources of how we link up and hold them to account. Thank you.
So, do you want to respond to that?
Yes, I think we're part of the thing with us bringing the new IT system in because it is an app. So technically, what we can then do is roll that out to schools. So any customer complaint that comes in, the front end, we just add that category. We could add each school in, and we can make sure then that that is then allocated to that school. We'd have to train all those administrators on using it, but then they can then update it so they can use it exactly as our staff. So it's another good aspect of us having the new IT system. I think what we probably need to do is embed it within current services just to make sure everything's working as we need it to over the next 6 months. But then there's no reason why we couldn't roll that out to schools. Yeah. Thank
you, Councillor Rayner. That's a very good question, and I'm pleased to hear that there is the ability to bring that into the schools. Julie Davis.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Sarah. I'd like to understand a bit more about the implementation of actions and lessons learned, opportunity to improve, and whether either the complaints team or anyone else provide any assurance as to whether the actions have been implemented to minimise the risk of recurrence.
Yes, so particularly where it's an ombudsman case, yes, we would meet with the head of service. That head of service has an action plan. We make sure that the actions are complete and then respond back to the ombudsman. But I think generally across stage 1 and stage 2 complaints, yes, I mean we are constantly working with the services to look at where we can change ways of working and practice, and we do that in quite a quick and agile way as well. We don't like to make that too onerous, but I think, you know, if something comes in that seems a reasonable request change in terms of how we change our working practices that's going to make it better for the public, then yes, services do that, and the complaints team work closely with each service on that. And often we will put that in, so that will be probably a piece of information that we'll put, for example, in the scrutiny report that we take in terms of where we might have made changes. And in those other reports, we also talk about compliments as well, because obviously here we're talking about complaints, but on the opposite side of that, there's a lot of compliments that we also get from the public, which we also publish.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions from members? Not seeing any hands up. I've just got one question, Sarah, and that's on page 15 of the Ombudsman's Appendix A. The Council were asked to take a number of actions within that letter. I think there were 3 bullet points there, and to inform the Ombudsman by the 15th of November that those actions had been progressed. Can you confirm whether they've all been complete, please? It's the engage with the complainants, standards work, assess training for the staff, etc.
Yes, that has been. Yes, so we have presented the annual letter to Cabinet. We have engaged with the team to ensure there's training for staff. What we'd like to do, though, is obviously extend that training, because the initial training was very much around just training those people that handle complaints. So it was about investigations and those kind of areas. What I've been talking to the Ombudsman's office about as well is whether we can expand that into just general training, good practice, you know, getting their input into it, so we're delivering the best good practice training that we can. That will be the next phase. And I have informed the Ombudsman that we have completed the actions, and we've taken the report to Cabinet.
Okay, thank you for that confirmation. I'm not seeing any more hands up. Can I thank you for presenting this report to us today? It is the first occasion, and you know, hopefully once the scrutiny committee is able to see it in March, if there are any issues arising from the scrutiny applied there, I'm sure Councillor Peter Black will update the Governance and Audit Committee. But just to reflect, the role of this committee is to review and assess the authority's ability to handle complaints effectively. And to enable us to do that, we will need some KPI information. There is some information in this report, but you and I have discussed outside of the meeting that once the IT system comes in, we would be able to have a richer source of information to enable us to deliver against our role, because the lens we have is different to the lens that scrutiny and performance and other committees have. But thank you for that, and if that could be minuted as well, Jeremy, I'd appreciate that. So the information, this report is for information, so we can move on to Justine and the Audit Wales work programme and timetable. If I could welcome you, Justine, to take us through that report.
Thank you, Chair. This, I believe, is the first time our work programme and timetable has come before Audit and Governance Committee. We have issued Q1 back in the summer, and under the new Local Government Act, this is a new requirement placed upon us. It does set out the work of the external regulators, CIW and Estyn, as well as the role of Audit Wales. I'll just take you through the financial audit work that's been undertaken. The council financial audit accounts have been issued, and we're currently working through the pension fund. The performance audit work we've issued in relation to financial sustainability. The final local report came before Audit Committee in October, I understand, and also the national report, but there are embedded links in this particular document to refresh members' understanding of that. We are currently working alongside your officers in a piece of work called Coming Out of COVID. This is quite an innovative approach for us. It's about inspiring and explaining. So there won't be written outputs in a report format, but we will hope to provide some feedback to the authority early in the new year. The work we've been doing under the Wellbeing of Future Generations legislation is underpinning everything that we do at the moment, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. We've recently issued your improvement reporting certificate. That was last week, so that is a certificate of compliance, so that the authority is fully compliant in that area. The audit risk and assurance work, we're coming to our conclusions on that, and we will have a workshop with the senior leadership team possibly in February. I know Adam's currently looking at appropriate dates for us to get together on feeding back those messages. Currently underway, we have a piece of work around Springing Forward, which is looking at how authorities across Wales have been coping with the pandemic and how they're changing and adapting. And we're looking at particular areas around workforce and how councils are using their buildings in a different way. So the reports are due out in the spring for those. We've been working alongside your transformation team in real time, looking at how that framework is supporting the council in transforming to a new type of organisation and services for its citizens. And we hope to provide a letter to that to inform the annual audit summary, which we plan to issue in January, February of next year. Moving on to the Local Government National Studies planned and in progress. This is really to give members a clearer understanding of the range of reports and the work that Audit Wales undertakes each year across Wales. I believe the local work that I've just referred to above has regularly come to Audit Committee, but the remaining work here under the Local Government National Studies programme, I'm not sure systematically has come. And I know officers of the authority are working through IT arrangements to ensure you have more regular sight of these reports and the associated recommendations that apply to you as an authority, so you're better able to track their implementation across the council. I move on now to Estyn and CIW's work. There's some narrative there around the work those external regulators are doing with your council officers and across Wales as well. CIW work is identified there on page 32. And finally, I just want to draw members' attention to our national reports and other outputs that we've undertaken over the last, during this year, I should say, from April 2021. They're not directly related to the authority, but they are interesting for your members to be aware of. And there's embedded links there to every report, which are helpful to be cited of, I think. Some of them very topical in relation to the COVID pandemic, and are very useful to be aware of. And then we list on page 34 the range of future studies reports that are planned to be published, so that you as members are aware of them. And finally, on page 35, we have the work of our Good Practice Exchange, where they hold seminars, and because of COVID pandemic, they've been doing those virtually. but I'm happy to take any questions from members.
Have we got any questions for Justine? Any hands up? Not seeing any hands up. Okay, thank you for this, Justine. It's something that we've been asking for because, as you quite rightly say, the Governance and Audit Committee have not always had sight of these because some of these reports go to other committees within the organisation. But I think it's important for this committee to know that these reports exist and how those other committees are dealing with them for the purposes of assurance. What I would like to see is a further piece of work. I don't know whether Adam and others can help with this, is for those reports where there are due dates that for issue, is those that would relate directly to the Governance and Audit Committee, if they could be included in our work programme, and those that relate specifically to scrutiny or other committees in the council, that we are cited that they are receiving those as well. So we've got the complete picture and assurance that everything is being handled in the right way to give us assurance through this format. I don't know whether you've seen anything by way of good practice, Justine, on how others are dealing, because there's quite a lot of work in your programme and Estins and CSIW. And if you've got anything that's innovative and makes this journey smoother and more efficient for the City and County of Swansea, if you could share that with officers, I would be very grateful.
Yes, of course. We'll have a look at what other authorities are doing, and happy to share that with Adam and Jeremy and Richard to help on that journey, because as you say, it's a big piece of work to track, and the breadth of work that we issue as external regulators, but it's helpful, well, in the new legislation for you to be cited of them as the Governance and Audit Committee.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. If there are no other questions on that, then perhaps you can put that in the action tracker for Adam, Richard and Jeremy, I guess. I am minded of the resource pressures on officers, so hence the reason why I'm asking if there's anything out there that could quite easily be adopted. That would be helpful. Okay, so we can move on to agenda item 6. And we can take agenda item 7 at the same time. Agenda item 6 is the audit tracker. As I said earlier on,
it is updated.
I can't see the November meter.
Yeah, that's. Oh, sorry, it's the wrong date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the actions from the November meeting need to be built in.
Yeah, the actions are in there, Chair, sorry, but the date is wrong. It's 11th of the 9th, but it should be 9th of the 11th.
Ah, right.
So all those actions there, 58, 56, 54, 53, 52.
They are in there,
46
okay.
are all in there from the last
Okay,
meeting.
then. Okay, so I just want to be sure that they're all complete and they're all on the plan. Again, that's for noted. If we go to the work plan, as we've just discussed, the work plan will now need to be updated to include not just what the external regulators have indicated to us this morning, but also in Appendix 4, Adam has kindly, with officers' support, helped to look at the Local Government and Elections Act and identify what new areas of work that the Governance and Audit Committee need to include in our programme of work. And we now need to build a work programme. As I say, it's new ground and we will need additional training, I'm sure of that, which I know Adam has got planned to do post the May 2022 elections. So we can, anything we can do to make the committee efficient by way of reading outside of the committee, I would plead members if you could try and get up to speed with these new areas so that we can deliver in the period of time while we're waiting for the formal training. Or if anybody's got concerns, please contact me directly and perhaps we could discuss that outside of the meeting. Are there any questions on either of those papers? No? Well, the next meeting is in January, so if there are no further questions, I'm not seeing any hands. Can I thank everyone for their participation and engagement throughout 2021. And can I wish you the very best and happiest of Christmases, and hopefully a healthier new year for everyone. Take care.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Chair. Very happy Christmas to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Chair. Bye.